Arina unlatched her window, allowing the freshness of the outdoors inside. She reveled in the river smell, inhaling deeply. Choosing a riverfront condo was certainly a step in the right direction. It was pricier than the neighboring structures, but the vista overlooking the narrow embankment and the river's expansive ribbon was priceless. Friends warned her about flood risks, soil movement, and potential building collapses, but nearly 2 years had passed without any structural issues. Arina chalked up all the adverse input to resentment. If you've ever made a bold choice that others doubted, how did it turn out for you? Let us know your experiences in the comments below. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another one of our tales. The only disadvantage of her new home was its ground floor location, but the minimal walkway in front prevented attempts of intrusion. Instead, a variety of urban birds like crows, sparrows, and pigeons became her frequent window companions. One morning, she tossed out breakfast crumbs and was amused to watch a flock of birds swoop in to feast. She loved this spectacle so much that she made it a daily ritual to sprinkle breadcrumbs or seeds outside. To her surprise, one day, instead of the anticipated feathered creatures, a lean-looking feline appeared. It was desperately underweight, with a pitiful expression. The cat attempted a meow, but it was so weak that the sound barely escaped. Arina had never been an avid cat enthusiast, but she couldn't ignore an animal in such dire condition. Without a second thought, she rummaged through her refrigerator, located leftover dinner from the previous night, and threw it outside. The feline jumped on the food, going everything down to the last morsel. Arina shook her head in disbelief. How did the cat get into such a desperate situation? It seemed kind, yet it was left to fend for itself, nearly starving. Arina felt a pang of empathy, but it lasted only a few minutes while she pondered the plight of street animals. Then she rushed off to work, brushing off lingering thoughts about the feline. Over the next few days, Arina didn't expect to encounter the cat again. However, she noticed the same malnourished creature loitering near a neighboring house. The cat froze, its terrified eyes meeting Arina's, before dashing past her legs in a hurry. A man less agile than the cat was in pursuit and unintentionally collided with Arina. Arina suddenly lost her footing but quickly caught hold of the man's garment, maintaining her balance. "My apologies," the man offered sincerely. Arina faintly recalled seeing this gentleman somewhere. He resided 2 floors beneath hers. She scrunched up her face in discomfort, readying to reproach the man for causing her nearly to fall. But he interrupted her before she could utter a word, already offering his explanation. "Apologies, I noticed you too late to swerve," he confessed. Arina half considered confronting this intrusive person. Her gaze darted around the vicinity with curiosity. There was no sign of any offensive entity. Did it perhaps scuttle away while she was engrossed by the sight of the cat? The bewildered Arina examined the path the feline had taken, but it was nowhere to be seen. "Whom are you referring to?" she queried. "Oh, the scruffy feline," the man pointed out with distaste. "Impudent creature, it's ubiquitous. Just appeared out of the blue with no invitation. Now it even birthed kittens on the construction grounds, as if it doesn't already have enough to handle," he vented. "But you need not worry. I am committed to dealing with them by the end of the week. I intend to thoroughly investigate the entire construction site, uncover their den, and disassemble it. It is uncalled for. These cats will mature and potentially take over the entire yard. We don't need such complications. I'll ensure they do not proliferate to deter the spread of illness." He finished his monologue, bid Arina a good day, and scuttled off. Arina uttered a few muffled words in his retreating direction, blinking profusely. Admittedly, she knew stray animals posed a risk of disease, but hearing such brutal plans for their extermination horrified her. She felt a wave of relief that they shared different entryways and made a mental note to avoid solo encounters with him. Back home, Arina found herself gravitating towards her window. Peering down, she spotted the cat from earlier, huddled fearfully under the shrubbery. Its tormentor from earlier was out of sight, but Arina could see its tail flicking and its ears twitching with unease from her vantage point. It sniffed the air warily, scanning its surroundings. "Hey there," Arina whispered, the cat startled, whipping around, prepared to flee or fight. Upon catching sight of Arina, it eased up. The cat appeared so malnourished and petrified that Arina felt a resurgence of pity for it. "Hungry?" she ventured. "I'll get you something." The feline, seemingly intelligent, perked up at the word hungry, stretching and gazing at Arina expectantly. Arina rushed to check the fridge. As she clattered dishes and drummed a knife on the chopping block, the feline wasted no time, scaling an uneven tree limb to the height of the first story and leaping onto the windowsill. Arina let out a surprised yelp when she pivoted to face the window. To the cat's credit, it didn't intrude into the apartment. Instead, it sat perched on the ledge, ready to dart back to street level if necessary, while sniffing the enticing aromas wafting from inside. The cat repeated its silent meow, omitting the grating sound Arina was accustomed to hearing from stray cats. The young woman prepared fresh pieces of chicken, combined them with potatoes, and drenched the mix in a healthy covering of sour cream. If the man's theories were correct and the cat was nursing a litter, her current frail state indicated that she didn't have the resources to provide for the newborns. Arina transferred the meal into an empty tin that had been languishing for weeks and extended it to the waiting feline. The creature lunged at the meal with fervor, gulping down extensive chunks. Notwithstanding the cat's earlier subdued entreaty for sustenance, it now resonated a purr so intense from sheer delight that it seemed like it could cause the windows to quiver. The young woman was helpless to resist and stroked the creature's head, which only increased the intensity of the purring. After the feline licked the container bare, it indulged in a thorough grooming session, purred its farewell, and catapulted itself out through the window, disappearing into the foliage beyond in mere moments. Arina closed the window contently, dismissing the sinister intentions of her neighbor. When she woke the next Saturday morning, she was serenaded into alertness by the delightful songs of local birds. She thrust open the window, allowing the symphony to permeate her home. As she progressed through her morning routine in the washroom and returned to the kitchen to brew a steaming cup of coffee, she was taken aback by what she found. Perched on the windowsill was the familiar cat, holding something minuscule in its mouth. For a moment, Arina feared that the feline had offered a rodent as a gift. She was deathly afraid of mice and was prepared to belt out a horrified shriek. Yet the supposed mouse let out a diminutive meow, much to Arina's relief. It wasn't a mouse, but a kitten. Arina gently unloaded the kitten from the cat's mouth. It was still tiny, with its eyes not yet open to the world. The kitten meowed fearfully and shook nervously in Arina's grasp. The young woman sought reassurance from its mother, but the cat was nowhere to be found on the windowsill. "Hold on, where did you skedaddle off to?" she cried out, sticking her head out through the window to call back the missing feline. But it was nowhere to be found. Arina wasn't sure what action to take with the small feline she had discovered. Despite her uncertainty, she sensed that the mother cat would indeed return for her charge and couldn't possibly abandon her offspring. Arina chose to set the kitten on the windowsill, yet it exhibited a restless spirit, refusing to nestle and staying still. Its movements were peculiar, as it moved its limbs clumsily, almost like a fuzzy mini reptile. Apprehensive of an accident, like a stiff landing or possibly even tumbling out of the window, Arina improvised a shoebox for the little creature. She carefully nestled the kitten within it and positioned the box back on the window ledge. With that task completed, Arina finally poured herself a cup of coffee, a part of her morning routine. Ever watchful, she ensured the tasty beverage did not go astray. On returning to the window, Arina was taken aback to find not one but 2 kittens curled in the box. Significantly, there was still no adult cat in sight. Arina frowned. She had certainly not planned for multiple animals in her residence. It was at this exact moment that her phone began to screech, filling the room with noise. Arina quickly scurried over to answer. It was her friend on the line, and Arina wasted no time sharing her predicament. She aired her grievances about the uninvited cat, a remark that set her friend chortling loudly. "No, it's true," Arina asserted urgently. "I just went to make coffee. When I came back, there were 2 kittens." As she gestured animatedly, her eyes caught sight of the cat sliding out of the window. "Hey, hold on!" Arina yelled, but the feline was swift and disappeared behind the bushes flanking the window. On the windowsill, the box now contained not 2 but 3 kittens. Her friend found all this quite entertaining and was literally rolling with laughter on the other end of the line. Arina, however, did not share the sentiment. She curtly ended the call, tossed on some clothes over her pajamas, and darted into the street. Arina's goal was to nab the bothersome cat and convince it to take back its brood to wherever they had originated. But before she even made her way around the building, she bumped into a familiar face from the previous day. This individual, her neighbor, appeared ready for hard work, equipped with a hammer and sack, and was headed towards an unfinished construction site nearby. After completing one structure, the construction workers set about building another one. Local authorities were due to provide the requisite permissions, but ended up linking the issue to the attorney's office under the guise of unlawful land encroachment. Interestingly, the construction firm had audio tapes of the initial approval for the project. Consequently, everything had stalled. The building was merely 2 stories high. Long legal procedures had been ongoing for several years. The half-constructed building had become a local monument, especially beloved by children and teens. Sometimes stray dogs and cats would find their way into the neighborhood, leading locals to call animal control to take care of their new, pesky companions. The guy from next door, who always had some tool in his hand, seemed quite imposing. Arina immediately thought about his threat regarding the new kittens. She hoped that his intentions were merely a joke and that he was simply after some rocks for balcony renovations. The neighbor gave a friendly nod to Arina as though they were longtime friends. "Have you seen any cats around here?" he inquired. Arina quickly shook her head. Her creative mind was already forming images of what could happen if the kittens and the tool entwined. It was a truly horrifying thought. Arina whirled around swiftly and hastened home, as if that had been her plan all along. Silently, she prayed that the mother cat would be able to move her kittens to safety before the neighbor found them. She was too scared to come face to face with a man who took pleasure in discussing the decreasing cat numbers. Who knows? Perhaps next he would decide to decrease the neighborhood population. Upon returning to her apartment and nearing her window, Arina discovered 4 kittens in a box. The mother cat was situated beside it, giving Arina a pleading and hopeful gaze. Perhaps the cat understood human speech, but Arina quickly waved off the idea as a figment of her imagination. Nonetheless, the cat had saved her kittens from imminent danger at the right time. The cat appeared calm, quietly sitting next to the box, showing no intentions of leaving. Arina concluded that there would be no additional kittens. The memory of the intimidating neighbor flashed back to Arina. Swiftly, she placed the box on the floor, and when the cat leaped off after it, she promptly closed the window to avoid inciting the neighbor's suspicion. Arina hoped that nobody saw where the kittens were being moved and wouldn't tell the man. With a sigh, Arina phoned her friend once more, who this time listened to her without any laughter. Soon enough, her friend arrived with a bag filled with shampoos, anti-flea drops, and anti-worm pellets. After half an hour, the damp and terrified cat was regretting her decision to wander into the apartment. But the girls were relentless. They scrubbed off all the grime, treated them for fleas and other pesky mites, and then fed them. The kittens were fortunate since they were so small and put up little resistance. Eventually, the girls assembled a spacious nest-like structure, placed the animals in it, and granted them peace. The annoyed feline busied herself with a long grooming session. She had an uphill task waiting, sprucing up herself and her 4 little kittens after their hygienic routine. This endeavor could stretch late into the evening. "We can't return them to the street," grumbled Arina. Yet she wondered if she could accommodate all of them. Maybe a visit to the shelter could be an option. Her friend somewhat amusingly asked, "Do you believe the shelters have sufficient space?" She explained that the shelters were filled to the brim, often discarding animals over the enclosure, and sometimes under it. It was a horrendous sight, she conveyed. Taking another group of 5 would probably not be an option for them. They were already filled to the brink. She pitched to Arina, "You have some room for them. Why don't you house them for the time being while I try to find them new homes? I'll create a dedicated page for them, record a few clips, and upload them there." Arina conceded to her friend's suggestion, given her prowess with social media and streaming content. The young kittens could be safe and cared for in this way. Arina, a novice when it came to dealing with cats, mulled over their sustenance during this time. Her companion was enthusiastic as she explained the different types of cat food down to the brands. Arina felt swamped with this wealth of new information. She worried as she calculated the possible expense of caring for these 5 creatures and sighed heavily. Yet, to her surprise, succumbing to despair at this juncture was premature. The mother cat took a generous share of the food herself. The very next day, the feline was eager to get out. Arina empathized with the former outdoor creature's desire for open space. She slipped a flea collar around the cat's neck and unlatched the window. The charming, groomed creature hardly bore any resemblance to the grimy being that had loitered in the yard. Hoping the ill-tempered neighbor wouldn't recognize her, Arina eventually learned her hopes weren't mere figments. Upon encountering the man, he lamented his inability to spot the creatures at the vacant construction site. Although he noticed the cat, he merely glanced at her, clearly not associating the cleaned-up feline with his lost quarry. The cat, however, identified him instantly, scampering off to the tree canopy, returning only after her nemesis retreated to his abode. The fascinating segment was yet to unfold. Every couple of days, the feline would bring back some fish. From where she managed to find them, Arina had no clue. The skillful huntress would spring onto the windowsill, carrying the still twitching, fresh catch in her mouth. Arina was taken aback the first time it occurred. However, as the cat persistently offered her the fish, she had no choice but to accept this unique gift from her animal guest. Arina made a sudden decision to utilize the fish as sustenance. She carefully cooked it, removed its bones, and incorporated some gruel, and the outcome was a gray and odorous mixture that the cat devoured enthusiastically. "Terrific! We can decrease our expenditure on food now," the young lady celebrated. The fish supply was steady, and Arina's curiosity increased. One day she monitored the cat. The feline darted to the river, showed off along the promenade, and vanished into the shrubs nearby the bank. After a while, it reappeared with a fish in its jaws. Arina conjectured she had a remarkable cat. "Imagine that the cat is an angler," rejoiced the young lady to her companion. However, her companion was skeptical and suggested they trail the cat once more. The feline sprinted to the same tall grass from before, and the companion courageously waded through the foliage. After a short while, she emerged hooting with laughter. "Your feline catches the fish, right?" The friend chuckled while catching her breath. "It's simply a net or some sort of bait there. It's beyond my knowledge. Your feline merely comes closer to the fish, lures it nearer with her fangs, and conveniently hauls it out. Such an ingenious creature. That implies I've been eating pirated fish all the while." Arina was struck with terror. As the girls contemplated the morality of consuming stolen fish, their feline friend came along brandishing another prize in her jaws. She did not anticipate her owner to be so nearby, but kept her cool. The feline approached and offloaded the fish at Arina's feet. The young lady couldn't make out what to do next, just gazing at the fish evasively. "I've finally caught who's been thieving my haul." An aggressive, rugged voice resounded from behind. They all sprang up in shock. The girls immediately spun toward the source of the unexpected voice. The cat sought refuge behind her owner's legs, hissing defiantly. While her friend intriguingly observed the newcomer, Arina felt a lump in her throat. The offender was none other than their neighbor, who had been frequenting the construction site with a hammer, looking for the cat's clan. "Stand back. I'll deal with the culprit right now," the man asserted fiercely, his gaze intense, shoving Arina to the side. The young lady was dumbfounded and unsure. That was when her friend, rather fortuitously, sprang into action. She bellowed loudly, the noise piercing everyone's ears. "Law enforcement, assist us! They're attacking us!" The friend panicked. Both Arina and the neighbor paused, gazing at the friend who was causing the commotion. Little did they know, her scream was not for naught. The police unit monitoring a nearby waterfront swiftly heeded the call. The woman hastily excused herself, asserting she had misconstrued the gentleman's purpose. "I believed he aimed to submerge us, but he was referring to this vagrant creature," she agreed, gesturing towards the cat. The miniature feline had harvested the fish from his trap. Incidentally, she was unaware it was permissible to position traps close to domiciles. Quite expedient. The feline was ensnared promptly in the kitchen. The lady was babbling something unrelated, but her words fell on unlistening ears. The adjacent occupant suddenly turned ashen and recalled the appliance he had accidentally left energized. The police personnel comforted the gentleman warmly, assuring him that the fire department would be on the scene promptly in the event of a conflagration. Therefore, there was no reason to stress over the appliance. There was nothing significant or unique about the overlooked device. However, the entrapment devices were remarkable, and they would investigate that. Opting not to linger for the conclusion, the woman with the cat secured under her arm covertly returned to their residence. A large group of spectators had already convened along the waterfront. Consequently, the ceremonious removal of the traps was viewed by many. For a duration, Arina prohibited the cat from venturing outdoors and trod lightly, perpetually anticipating trouble from the neighbor. However, upon encountering him, the man swiftly retreated as far as he could manage. Interestingly, he seemed fearful, virtually warding off bad luck on the pavement. At that point, Arina breathed a sigh of relief. There was no further peril for her or the cat. The feline resumed her outdoor excursions, refraining from bringing fish back, and instead spent her time somberly prowling the waterfront. The litter of kittens, now grown, didn't intrigue her as they once did. The tiny felines opened their eyes, began feeding independently, and even located new caregivers thanks to Arina's friend and her promotional endeavors. The task remaining was to foster the kittens slightly more before organizing their relocation. It was clear that the cat longed for occupation, and one fine day she triumphantly carried home a large, nearly expired fledgling. Arina swiftly rang her friend. Given the prior occurrences, the most astounding theories as to why the chick was with the cat were concocted. The women equipped themselves with binoculars and hastily trailed the cat outdoors. A new thrilling probe was primed to occur. Little did they suspect that tending to a needy stray creature could unravel such a stirring tale.